Ferrari is not done when it comes to poaching staff from other teams, and this time it seems like they've eyed the crisis that's happening in Red Bull in order to bring as many loud names as possible. And of course, whenever this topic comes up, the loudest name is going to be Adrian Newey, and given the latest developments in Red Bull, we might see the British mastermind take his peers and move to Ferrari in order to embark on a new challenge, something that Hamilton himself opened up to. Will Red Bull face the consequences of their own actions against Horner? And has this current mess already cost them too much in the internal circle? It's safe to say that the Red Bull scandal has been one of the hottest topics on the grid, and while many of the insiders say that there's a call for the Austrian brand to calm down and focus on what is more important at this moment, the damage would have reached an irreparable point where engineers could be leaving left and right, with Newey leading the charge and going to the Maranello team. According to the F1 insiders, Ferrari is preying on the damage that has been done in Red Bull's internal circles, and is focusing on 3 other loud names apart from Adrian Newey, which include Enrico Balbo, who is the head of aerodynamics, and a man that Horner hoped to push even further up the scale in the upcoming period, David Morgan, who is the Aero Trackside Performance team leader and has worked with Red Bull since leaving Williams, and Ben Waterhouse, who is the head of performance engineering at Red Bull. To top that off, Ferrari is seemingly focusing on hiring Alessandro Germani, who is an expert in CFD or computational fluid dynamics, which is definitely an area Ferrari would need a massive improvement in if they want to take down Red Bull. But while these names are all very loud and do seem like massive improvements for Ferrari, which is not something we should be looking far away to acknowledge, considering the amount of knowledge that Dan Fallows brought to Aston Martin, as he was the former head of aero in Red Bull and instantly made Aston Martin a top 5 team, they do not compare with the genius mind of Adrian Newey. As of now, reports state that the Maranello team is ready to offer the British mastermind a blank cheque, which means that he would be the one making his own salary and his own working conditions. And one thing is for sure, he'd be taking the drawing board with him in Maranello as well. These moves are related to the chairman of Ferrari, John Elkann, who has constantly expressed his desire to bring Ferrari back to its golden days from 2000 to 2004, as well as the close competitive years they had in 2007 and 2010 to 2012. So, with that in mind, you could be making a strong argument that Ferrari does not intend to play games when it comes to hiring strong and powerful staff and making the car a championship-winning one. If you're wondering how Ferrari is able to make these moves with the budget cap being one of the biggest obstacles in the sport, we need to remind you of one very important factor here. The top 3 employees in the team are excluded from the budget cap. Therefore, Ferrari would be smart to make Newey one of those 3 employees. And while all of this information comes from the Italian media, which is very close to Ferrari and can sometimes be biased towards their native team, it does give you a lot to think about when it comes to hiring such an experienced squad from Red Bull, a team that has struggled a lot to maintain its stability ever since the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz. On top of that, Auto, Motor and Sport reported that Adrian Newey's satisfaction with Red Bull has slowly but surely started to downgrade, and even though he stated his intentions to remain with the team regardless of how the entire Horner drama would end, there's one very important thing we need to state here. It's Horner who appoints the roles of these experienced engineers. Recently, Horner stated multiple times that Newey's influx in how the Red Bull cars look in the past couple of years is a very limited one. And now, Auto, Motor and Sport believes that the 50-year-old Brit wants to put his older compatriot out of the big picture and make him fully focus on the Red Bull's RB17 hypercar project, solely for budget cap reasons. The reaction of the media is already loud and clear. Even though Newey enjoys building supercars, that has been one of the long-loved projects as an engineer, if he's demoted to this role and totally removed from the influence of Red Bull's F1 cars, then you can bet on the fact that he would be moving to Ferrari and start his villain story in taking down Red Bull, which, by the way, can definitely be done considering the amount of knowledge he has in his area and expertise. This is very interesting because it comes at a time when Lewis Hamilton joined Ferrari, and although many have connected this move by Ferrari with the ongoing crisis at Red Bull, it's safe to assume that they might have tried to hire some of these engineers with their current drivers lineup. Therefore, you can raise an argument as to whether or not Ferrari is trying to build upon Hamilton as their next champion, considering the amount of work they're doing to hire all of these engineers and make a total restructure in the team. They didn't do the same for Leclerc, who, while they will also benefit a lot from these signings if they happen in the foreseeable future, needed Hamilton to sign a contract with Ferrari in order to see his team chasing these high-profile engineers. However, the question for Ferrari fans remains, is all of this one massive rumour? And are they hooked to the hopium machine for God knows what time now? According to the facts, it seems like Ferrari's making some strong moves, and there are certain situations that won't end well for Red Bull, such as the internal drama between the Verstappen-Marko clan and Christian Horner. As Jos Verstappen firmly said, "As long as Horner is leading the team, the environment in which his son has to drive is not a good one." And there have been proper reports that Red Bull intends on changing the duo of drivers they have right now if Verstappen is to leave them for Mercedes. But the damage that the three-time world champion is about to do to the Austrian team, according to Horner, is non-considerable, because he considers himself to be the architect behind the success of the team, and the fact that they have the fastest car gives them the luxury of picking whoever they want and winning races consistently. Maybe not within the margin Verstappen does, but the job would still be done nonetheless. So you could easily say that there's a fight between two giants in Red Bull, and it cannot end well for one of the two sides. Now, engineers like Adrian Newey might not want to deal with all of the aftermath here because they haven't been hired to deal with the internal politics. His job and the job of his colleagues is to design cars, and if they find themselves in a toxic environment in which their creative abilities will be limited, then it's safe to say they would be pursuing another team to work on. Judging by all the moves that Ferrari has been making, the market does seem quite attractive for these Red Bull engineers, and with Newey stating that one of his biggest regrets is not working with a team like Ferrari, as well as Hamilton's bombshell move, you can never say never to another shocking earthquake starting from Red Bull and being transferred to the Maranello factory. All the props are going to Frederic Vasseur, one of the most doubted team principals on the grid once he replaced Mattia Binotto, and finished third in his first year with Ferrari. But after the massive signings he made with Loic Serra and Lewis Hamilton, as well as Dan Barroso, who was the motorsport executive in Mercedes and is now going to take a senior role in Ferrari, you can definitely bet that the Maranello team is not going to settle for anything less than a championship. And with the power duo of drivers they'll have, it's not going to be that far-fetched of a scenario either. Now, Christian Horner might be doing exactly what he stated he doesn't want to do in his own team. Have individuals that feel like they are above the team, which was the direct threat he sent to Verstappen when the Dutchman threatened to leave if Marko wasn't there with him. From this point of view, we could understand a bit as to why Jos is very loud when it comes to replacing Horner, because this is the man who has been in the team from day one, and if there's certain situations that are not going his way, then the last thing he would want to do is kneel before the new generation and submit to the new culture. On the contrary, after being found innocent of the claims, Horner might want to push the knee even further and bring more authority to the team. All of this could definitely turn into more drama for Red Bull, because they are the team that is under a huge threat of falling apart. And considering the fact that their rivals are in a much-needed situation of poaching dissatisfied staff from their camp, it's not something that the Austrian squad should approach in such an unserious manner. With this in mind, do you think that Adrian Newey could be joining Ferrari anytime soon? And more importantly, do you think that there's an opportunity for Red Bull to recover if the Brit leaves the team in the hands of whoever would be left behind him, given the fact that Ferrari is eyeing a whole array of engineers from Red Bull? Let us know in the comments below.